He placed a trembling falcon on my bar and said, "Can you help it fly again?" The bird's eyes were the hard gloss of river stones at night, unblinking, furious with a fear it couldn't name. Its talons clicked on the walnut counter as it shifted, wings half open, a shadow trying to remember its shape. A leather jest circled its skinny ankle. The man's hand scarred steady didn't flinch. My rooftop cafe opens only after sundown. Lisbon below us is a bowl of warm orange windows and slow waves. The elevator rattles, the music is always low, and I draw star maps on paper coasters for guests who trade me one wish for one constellation. Some people bring words. He brought a falcon. "I'm Iris," I said, "because names come first, even before fear. And this is a coffee bar, not a clinic." "I know," he said, "but you help things that fall." His voice was soft and hoarse, as if he'd been speaking to wind all day. "I'm River." The name didn't fit the broad mountain of his shoulders, or the slate gray jacket patched at the elbows. But when he smiled quick apologetic, the name made sense. Movement around stone, patience with edges. The falcon shook its feathers and hissed. The sound slid over the rooftop tiles and into the night. It hit a glass barrier on a terrace, near Alfama, River said. "It's breathing well, but the wing's not right. I've called a wildlife rehab center, no answer this late. You're the only place open where people don't ask many questions." "That's because my customers bring stranger things than questions," I said, nodding at the crate of broken star projectors. A chipped mermaid mug, and a box of ribbons someone insisted was moonlight. But a falcon is new. He looked over the edge of the roof, where laundry wires drifted like staff lines of an unfinished song. "I can leave if don't," I said too quickly. I wanted to blame the wind for carrying the word out of me. "We can make a splint. There's a first aid kit under the sink. And chamomile? For you? Something warm helps your hands forget to panic." His hands did not look like they knew panic. They looked like they knew ropes and chalk, and the quiet mathematics of knots. He nodded, pulled the sleeves to his forearms, and waited while I brewed tea and fumbled with gauze and tongue depressors and a roll of tape with stars printed on it. The falcon watched every move, gold eyes turning, ancient and unimpressed. "What's its name?" I asked. "Not mine to give," he said. "Names should come from the first one who listens long enough." "And who's that?" "Maybe you," he said, as if stating a forecast. Behind him, the terrace was a soft geography of couples and loner tourists leaning into the edge of night. A delivery driver in a fluorescent vest, a girl studying for her exam with her feet on a heater. The city breathed salt. The river took that breath and rolled it back. I set the splint. River's fingers steadied the wing with the care of someone who has restored small, precise machines. When the tape came down, the bird blinked like a shutter. I wrapped a cotton cloth around its body to keep it from thrashing. "There," I said, "not a cure. A promise that we'll try." River exhaled. "A promise is sometimes all a fall needs." He said it like someone who had fallen. "Coffee?" I asked after a moment. "Or are you one of those who shows up at midnight and asks for lemonade?" "Coffee," he said. "Black? And if you're making those star maps, Cy might need one." "Everyone says that," I smiled, reaching for a fresh coaster. "What's your wish?" He tilted his head, as if listening to the falcon's breath. "I teach kids to climb at the gym and volunteer with parents bring me children who think gravity hates them. I want them to see that falling can be a kind of learning. My wish is selfish. I want a night I don't count the ways something might break." I drew a circle for the sky, for bright dots for the cardinal points, and found Sagittarius with a pencil's whisper. "You'll need a different archer," I said. "One who aims down, not up. Temperance between fear and courage. In my maps, that's a small constellation most charts forget the rope. It's not official, but people like it." River laughed once. The sound caught between disbelief and relief. "You make your own stars." "Someone has to keep the sky updated," I said. "It changes shape to fit what people need." He watched the graphite trail become a knot, 2 lines crossing, a loop, an exit point. The falcon watched him watching me. I added a line of text, "Hold, then breathe." The map was small, but his eyes made it seem like a window. "How much?" he asked. "One wish," I said. but pay in labor tonight. There's a projector in the crate that refuses to behave. If you fix it, we'll throw stars on the laundry wall. He rolled his sleeves higher. Deal. While he worked, I brewed another coffee, made a cinnamon honey for the girl at the heater, and refilled water for the couple arguing softly about maps. The falcon settled in a wooden crate with a folded sweater. When I crouched to check its bandaged wing, the bird's pupils widened, then relaxed, following the rhythm of my hands. I breathed in counts of 4. So did the bird. You're good at that, River said, without looking away from the projector's guts. Synchronizing. Drawing stars is a kind of syncing, I said. You can't give someone a map unless you listen to how their night sounds. He held up a gear with a chipped tooth, then a strip of belt that had frayed to a fuzz. And sometimes the sky needs a new part. Do you ever get tired of fixing what should have been designed better? I asked. He glanced up. Design is how we tell the future we tried. Fixing is how we tell the past it didn't win. The projector sparked to life with a hiccup. The terrace turned blue, then dark, then blue again, unsteady stars swarming like schools of fish. River frowned, tightened a screw, and the sky steadied. All right, he said, nudging the switch. Let there be light. The laundry wall lit up with Orion, but tilted, as if the hunter had decided to rest. Phones came out. Someone cheered. The girl with her feet on the heater whispered finally and lowered her textbook. Make a wish, I told the terrace, because words can be rituals if you let them be. Tonight, the stars take returns and exchanges. They laughed. River stood at the edge of the light, a man surprised to be in a place where people were allowed to hope out loud. The falcon blinked slower now. Night ran its fingers through my hair and made a small, invisible braid. When the last cup was rinsed and the projector purring like an appliance that had earned its keep, River lifted the crate with the falcon. I'll take it home, keep it quiet, bring it to the rehab center at dawn. You live close enough to hear the river think, he said. And to come back if you decide the rope needs a second knot. I wrote my number on the underside of his coaster, in case you need to ask what the sky meant. He turned the coaster over, a little shy, as if I had handed him a password. In case you need to know the falcon's name, he corrected, and tucked the circle of paper into his jacket. The wind lifted at the corner, nudging laundry lines and loose bookmarks from pockets. River paused at the door. Iris, yes, that projector'll hold for a while. But you'll need a new belt soon. I can make one from spare webbing. I'll bring it in a couple days. He didn't say if you want. He said it like a plan that already belonged to both of us. All right, I said. Bring it. And bring a story to trade. The stars are hungry. He smiled that river smile again, patient and stubborn. I'll bring a story if you draw out a map. After he left, Lisbon thinned like ink and water. The terrace cooled. I gathered cups and coils of fairy lights, fed coins to the heater, turned the projector off and on to be sure it would still wake. In the crate, the falcon raised its head and watched me cross the floor. I don't name you, I told it softly. Not my right. But I can hold you until morning. The bird let out a breath that was almost a sigh. Below, a tram rang its bell, a bright sound crossing old stones. I sketched one more map, this one for myself. Not a constellation. A path, from bar to sink, to crate to door. Points where I had hesitated. I connected them with a pencil line, until they stopped looking like mistakes, and started looking like a figure only I could read. I titled it How to Carry a Wing Through the Night. When I finally shut the gate, the city felt close enough to touch. I locked up and stood under the last of our light. The sky above was a patient black. Somewhere, a river practiced being endless. Somewhere, a man with rope-burned hands tucked a coaster into his pocket, and carried a bird who didn't yet know it would fly again. I listened to the night until it sounded like yes. The next evening, the sky arrived late. It was one of those Lisbon dusks that forgot its own choreography, clouds hanging too low, the river silvering early, the city waiting for its cue. By the time I unlocked the rooftop gate, the air already tasted of rain. I had just finished wiping the counter when I heard the elevator rattle. A familiar voice called through the half-open door. Still open for wish trading? I turned. River stood there wind-tossed, a faint smile balanced like a coin on his lips. A coil of woven webbing hung over his shoulder, faded gray, frayed in places, soft with use. In his other hand was the same wooden crate. "Tell me the falcon didn't try to bite you," I said. "It tried to negotiate," he answered. "We're on equal terms now. It's resting in the truck downstairs." He set the crate on the counter and pulled out the webbing. "For your projector. Stronger than the original. I used this rope for a rescue drill last month. Thought it might enjoy retirement among the stars." The way he said "it's retirement among the stars" made the sentence feel like a lullaby for all tired things. "Coffee?" I asked. He nodded. "Whatever the one from last night was. It smelled like cinnamon and decisions you regret later. That's my signature drink." I poured 2 cups. The storm gave a low, polite warning beyond the glass. Lightning tested the clouds, like a camera flash before the real picture. "You sure the cafe is safe up here when it rains?" he asked. "Safe enough," I said. "The roof leaks near table 3. So I renamed it the waterfall seat and raised the price." He laughed, the sound bright enough to cut through thunder. "You're good at finding constellations in disasters." "It's a professional habit." I handed him the mug. "So, tell me, did the falcon eat a little?" "It drinks if you hum." "Hum," he nodded. "A note close to D minor works best." I smiled. "You tested different keys." "Couldn't sleep," he admitted. I wanted to see if it responded to frequencies, like patience and recovery. Sometimes vibration builds trust, where language can't. His words folded softly into me, like rain into sand. The rooftop lights flickered once, then steadied. "You said you teach climbing," I said. "What made you start doing rescue work?" He looked at the mug, turning it slowly between his palms. "I used to fall. A lot. When I was younger, it scared me so badly I tried to control everything, every anchor, every knot, every variable. But mountains don't care about control. Eventually you learn to care about return. The part where you stop surviving and start coming back." There was something in his tone that wasn't confession, but memory, something half-healed, like a scar that still hums in the rain. The projector belt took less than 10 minutes to install. River worked with calm precision, the quiet competence of someone used to fixing things mid. When he finished, he clicked the switch. The wall blossomed again with light. Tonight's stars were softer, blurred at the edges by humidity. I lowered the music until it was only heartbeat. "You know," I said, "you keep fixing my sky, and I'll run out of excuses to see you." He didn't look away from the projected constellations. "Then I'll start breaking them on purpose." "Ruthless," I said, smiling. "I prefer persistent." He gestured to the laundry wall. "Want to test your rope constellation?" I fetched a new coaster and drew the shape against 2 lines crossing, a loop, an exit. He watched as though he could see meaning bloom from graphite. When I finished, he stepped forward and used his repaired projector to trace the same pattern onto the wall. The image expanded until it hovered over us, a luminous knot made of small trembling lights. "It looks stronger now," he said, "because the rope knows it's seen." Rain began soft at first, then people hurried under umbrellas. A couple lingered near the edge of the terrace, laughing as drops turned their hair silver. I covered the counter with a plastic sheet and kept the bar open. Rain never scared me, it only made the city sound honest. "Do you believe in wishes?" River asked suddenly. "I believe in the parts people don't say out loud," I said. "Sometimes those are the same thing." He nodded, gaze caught in the shimmer of the projected knot. "Then here's one. I wish the falcon remembers how to fly without forgetting the fall." "That's beautiful," I whispered. "What about you?" He hesitated. "Maybe I want the same." Thunder rolled. The power blinked, then steadied again. I lifted the cup between us. "To learning how to fall kindly." He raised his, "and to those who stay to watch the climb." The toast clinked softly, a sound small enough to fit in a memory. When he left, the storm had thinned to drizzle. He covered the crate with his jacket and glanced back once, a brief silhouette against the lighted stairwell. After he was gone, I turned off the projector. But the wall still held a faint ghost of the knot, glowing even after the machine slept. I traced its outline with my finger. "Return," I whispered to it. And bring him back to... Outside, the falcon cried once from the street below, short, defiant, alive. The rain lasted 3 days. When it finally cleared, Lisbon looked newly washed, every tile bright, every railing dripping. I opened the Rooftop Café early, mostly out of habit, partly out of hope. Sometimes hope and habit are the same thing. They both make you show up even when you don't know who will. By twilight, the city smelled of salt and wet metal. The falcon's crate still sat in the corner, cleaned and empty, like a promise waiting to be refilled. The elevator chimed, and when the door slid open, River stepped out with someone unexpected, a little boy no older than 8, holding a small robot dog. I hope we're not too early, River said. His hair was damp, curls darker from the rain. This is Leo. He's one of my climbing students. And this, he pointed to the dog, is Nova. She's mostly wires and loyalty. The boy blinked at me, shy but curious. Mr. River said you fix broken stars. Sometimes, I smiled. And you brought one. He nodded solemnly. Nova stopped barking. I think she forgot how. I crouched to eye level. The robot dog's head was smooth chrome, one ear half detached, lights flickering weakly beneath its ribs. You built this. My dad and I, Leo said. Before he went to the ocean. River quietly added. His father's a marine engineer out on long expeditions. I see, I said softly. Then tonight, we'll make her remember. River watched me fetch a toolbox from behind the bar. He took off his jacket and joined me on the floor without a word. Leo stood close, hugging his knees, whispering to the dog as if it could still hear. We opened the casing carefully. Inside, a small circuit board blinked like a heartbeat. One connector was loose, corroded by the storm air. River held the flashlight while I soldered the silver melting into place like forgiveness. Leo's eyes followed every motion. Does fixing hurt her? Not when someone who cares is watching, I said. Machines can feel that. He nodded, satisfied with the logic only children and poets accept. When we finished, I closed the casing and touched the small power switch. For a moment, nothing. Then the dog's eyes glowed blue, and a soft whine filled the air. Nova tilted her head and gave a single digital bark high, cheerful, alive. Leo gasped. She remembers? River smiled. The kind that starts in the eyes before it reaches the mouth. Told you. Stars just need a nudge. Leo threw his arms around the dog. Can she stay here tonight? Dad said I could wait upstairs until he calls. Of course, I said. Nova can guard the stars. River turned to me. We can sit for a bit, if that's all right. He likes watching the lights. Always, I said, and flicked on the projector. The repaired machine hummed, obedient. A new belt meant smoother rotation, steadier constellations. Tonight, I didn't choose a famous one. I drew something smaller, a line of dots across the roof, linking faint stars into what looked like a leash, connecting a child and a tiny spark. What's that one called? Leo asked. It doesn't have a name yet, I said. You can choose. He thought for a while, then grinned. The promise? Perfect, I said. Because it keeps things from getting lost. River leaned against the counter, watching me draw another on a coaster. You make it sound easy. It's not, I said. But sometimes, pretending it is helps. Leo yawned, curling beside Nova, whose mechanical chest rose and fell with gentle rhythm. The city below murmured in warm lights. Somewhere a tram bell rang again. River lowered his voice. You know, every time I come here, it feels like gravity's quieter. I met his gaze. Maybe you bring your own kind of silence. I like that, he said. A portable calm. Trade secret, I asked. He smiled. Trade partner. He reached for the marker and, next to the promise, wrote a small note on the wall. Don't fix everything. Leave some stars broken, they light differently. I looked at it for a long time. Maybe that was the point of all this. The cafe, the falcon, the boy, the machine dog, even us. Some things weren't meant to be perfect. They were meant to be shared. By midnight Leo was asleep, Nova's taillight pulsing like a slow heartbeat. River draped his jacket over the boy's legs and exhaled softly. You should go home, I said. You look like you've been carrying the whole sky. I have, he said quietly. But tonight, it's lighter. I smiled. Then leave a piece of it here. I'll keep it safe. When he finally left, he paused at the gate again. Iris, what's your wish tonight? I looked at Leo, at the tiny blue light of Nova, at the steady rain-streaked horizon. That we keep finding reasons to stay kind. He nodded. Then I'll see you when kindness needs reinforcement. The door closed. The elevator hummed away. I stood alone among cups and quiet light, the word promise glowing faintly on the wall. Outside, the river breathed, and somewhere beyond the city, a bird tested its wing. The morning after, Leo woke before the sun. He sat on the counter, legs swinging, hair still shaped by sleep. Nova, the machine dog, rested beside him, tail light, pulsing like a tiny lighthouse. River arrived carrying 2 thermoses and a folded rope slung over his shoulder. He looked different in daylight, less a rescuer, more a person learning how to stand still. You really meant it, I said. You're taking him to the harbor. He nodded. His father's ship docks for an hour before heading back out. They haven't seen each other in 6 months. And you're their bridge. Just a driver, he said. But his eyes disagreed. I closed early. The cafe smelled of roasted beans and rain drying off the railings. I hung a back at sunrise sign and grabbed my jacket. When we stepped out, the city was rinsed clean. Trams clanged softly through puddles. Bakery doors opened like warm sighs. Leo held Nova in his arms, whispering, "You have to be brave, it's a big sea." The harbor was still waking. Fishing boats hummed, gulls complained, ropes creaked. The air tasted like salt and diesel and beginnings. Leo spotted a tall figure in a blue uniform waving from the deck of a white ship. Dad. The word carried like a flare across the water. The man's face broke into a smile so wide it outshone the sunrise. He leaned over the railing as the ship's horn groaned low. River knelt beside Leo. "We can't go on board, but you can shout everything you forgot to say." Leo cupped his hands. "Dad, Nova can bark again." She remembered. His father laughed, the sound bright and raw. "Then she's doing better than me." Everyone laughed a little. Even the gulls quieted. The boy looked at River, uncertain. What if the sea takes him again? River's hand rested gently on Leo's shoulder. "Then we'll wait for it to give him back. The sea always returns what you love, just changes the shape." Leo frowned, thinking hard. Then he nodded, accepting the kind of truth children are better at believing. The horn sounded again, final call. The ship began to move, slow as a thought. Leo waved both arms, Nova barking a tinny metallic joy. The man on deck blew a kiss toward them and vanished into the morning light. For a while we stood there in silence, the kind that isn't empty, but full of what was said without words. The sea glimmered, gentle, unhurried. River's rope hung loose at his side, its ends trailing near the ground like unspoken promises. "Do you ever get tired of goodbyes?" I asked. He looked out at the horizon. "Only when they stop meaning something." We walked back through the awakening streets. Leo skipped ahead, Nova trotting beside him, both leaving tiny prints that filled with sunlight. When we reached the Rooftop Café, the city had fully bloomed. I unlocked the gate. Inside, the air felt softer, almost listening. Leo climbed onto a stool. "Do you think my dad saw the stars we fixed?" "I think he saw every one," I said. River set his rope on the counter. "And maybe one more." I poured hot chocolate for Leo, coffee for River, tea for myself. We didn't talk much. Some mornings don't need dialogue. The world does the talking. When Leo dozed off again, River leaned close, voice low. "You were right. Helping others sometimes stitches things inside you too." "I didn't say that," I whispered. "You didn't have to." He reached across the counter and traced the chalk mark on the wall, the promise his fingertips dusted white. "Every knot we make here feels like a map." "Then maybe this place isn't just a cafe," I said. "Maybe it's a kind of harbor." He smiled, eyes soft. "For people learning to stay." Outside, the sky was pale gold, a promise painted thin. And for the first time since the cafe opened, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something to return. I was already part of what stayed. The night began quietly, too quietly. It had rained earlier, the kind of rain that soaks everything without asking for attention. The cafe was nearly empty. The usual crowd of travelers and insomniacs had stayed home. Even the falcon's perch looked abandoned, its blanket folded like a sleeping thought. River hadn't shown up for 3 days. He'd texted once, training in Sintra. Long shifts. Don't wait up. No punctuation, which for him was unusual. Silence has grammar if you listen hard enough. By 11, I'd washed every cup twice. The projector light spun gently across the laundry wall, painting constellations that didn't exist anywhere but here. I was halfway through sketching a new one, the anchor in the wing, when the elevator clattered open. But it wasn't River. A man in a red rescue vest stepped out, soaked from shoulder to boots. His expression was the kind that doesn't belong indoors. "Are you Iris?" he asked. I nodded, heart already tightening. "I'm a friend of River's. There was a landslide during a night climb and the team's okay, but River got caught in the lower debris field. He's stable, at the hospital near the coast." "Stable," I repeated, as if the word needed proof. "He wouldn't let us call his family. Said someone named Iris would understand." The air left the room. Not violently, more like a tide pulling back. "Thank you," I said, my voice steady because it had to be. "Which hospital?" He gave me the name, apologized for the interruption, and left with his boots dripping a trail through the light. I stared at the wet footprints, until they blurred into the reflections of the stars. I closed the cafe without turning off the projector. The rope constellations still glowed faintly on the wall, the word promise beneath it. I touched the chalk and whispered, "Hold," then breathe. The drive to Sintra felt longer than the distance allowed. Fog hugged the cliffs. Each turn looked like a question. By the time I reached the hospital, dawn was leaking pale gold through the sea mist. River lay in a narrow bed, right arm bandaged, left cheek scraped raw. Machines murmured softly at his side, blinking in rhythm with something stubbornly alive. He opened his eyes as I entered. "You came? You said not to wait." So obviously, I did. A corner of his mouth lifted. Typical Iris logic. "Stable," I said. "That's such a cowardly word." He blinked, tired. "It means I can still argue, if that helps." I sat by the bed. His hand was warm to warm, but when I held it, the trembling stopped. I traced the rough skin where rope burns had once been. "What happened?" I asked. "Rockfall? We pulled everyone out, but the last anchor gave way. I went down with it." "Don't look at me like that. Tit sounds worse than it is. I'll decide that after you can stand without the IV." He laughed softly, then winced. "Deal." The nurse came, checked his vitals, and left us in a hush thick with ocean air. The window was cracked open. I could hear the sea speaking its slow language below. "Did you know," he murmured, "that rope fibers swell when they're wet? Makes them stronger for a while, then weaker." "Like people," I said. He turned his head toward me. "Like people." We sat in silence, the kind that only happens when fear and relief share the same chair. His eyelids fluttered, heavy with morphine and exhaustion. Before sleep took him, he whispered, "Don't close the cafe. The stars need someone to stay." "I will," I said. "But only if you promise to come back and argue about constellations again." His hand tightened once around me, impulsive, and then released. Back in Lisbon, the cafe smelled of rain and coffee left unfinished. Nova blinked awake from her corner, mechanical tail thumping once. The falcon turned its head, feathers catching the dim light. "I know," I told them. "He's okay." I climbed the stool, picked up the chalk, and drew a new line on the wall. This one curved down, then up again, like the shape of a heartbeat. Beneath it, I wrote, "Return." For the first time, I didn't project stars that night. I left the wall blank, and let the city's real light spill in instead. Outside, Lisbon breathed slow and certain. Somewhere past the fog, the river and the sea were meeting against two bodies of water. Both carrying what they couldn't keep, both returning anyway. He came back on a Thursday. The elevator door opened with its usual sigh, but the sound felt different, like the end of a sentence that had been waiting for weeks. River stepped out, arm still bandaged, moving carefully but standing tall. The air seemed to make room for him. "You're late," I said, but my voice came out softer than I meant. Traffic, he said. And maybe hesitation. Hesitation? He smiled. You keep stars on your wall. I wasn't sure if I was ready to be seen again. Too bad, I said. The stars don't take reservations. He laughed, the quiet, tired laugh of someone returning to their own skin. Nova ran up to him, taillights flickering like applause. The falcon fluttered from its perch, gave one sharp cry, and settled again. Even the machines knew. I poured coffee without asking. He took the mug in his left hand, wincing slightly, and leaned on the counter. I missed this place, he said. Even the smell of rain and the wiring. You missed paying for coffee, you mean? That too. He sipped, eyes half closed. How's business? Steady? Tourists keep asking if the bird is part of the theme. And what do you tell them? That she's our silent manager. Keeps everyone honest. He smiled into the cup. That sounds about right. We stood there for a while, not needing to fill the air. The projector hummed back to life, throwing constellations across the wall, the rope, the promise, the knot, the return. They glowed like chapters of something we hadn't named yet. You kept it running, he said quietly. Someone had to. He nodded. Thank you. Don't thank me, I said. Just stay. His eyes lifted, steady and unguarded. You're dangerous when you say simple things. Why? Because I want to believe them. Outside, a slow wind moved through the laundry lines, making them sway like faint music. The city below blinked its thousand eyes. I turned the music lower, until the cafe became the sound of our breathing. River, I said. What are you afraid of? He didn't answer right away. He set the mug down, tracing the condensation ring with his finger. Leaving? Again. Every time I go out there, it feels like I could vanish, mid-rescue, mid-rope, mid-life. I don't want to keep being a disappearing act. Then stop disappearing, I said simply. He looked at me, searching for the part of the sentence that wasn't spoken. And if I stay, then I'll learn what staying means, I said. And you'll have to teach me the rest. Something quiet broke between us, not in pain, but in release. The kind of silence that becomes its own language. He reached out, slow, uncertain. His palm was rough, warm, alive. I met it halfway, fingers closing around the same air. We didn't kiss. Not yet. It wasn't the right kind of night for ending anything. It was the kind of night that wanted to last. The projector flickered, caught on one frame, a single constellation. Lines tangled into what looked like a bridge between two halves of the sky. What's that one? He asked. It doesn't have a name, I said. It just showed up. Then we'll name it later, he whispered. After we make sure it stays. When he left that night, he didn't say goodbye. He just looked up once at the bridge of light, at the stars that refused to fade, and smiled like a man who finally believed the world would still be there when he came back. It started raining again, of course it did. In Lisbon, every reunion seems to come with weather. River arrived just as thunder rolled in from the sea. He carried a toolbox, a coil of wire, and that quiet determination that always preceded something being fixed. Roof's leaking again, he said. You need help. I didn't call you, I said, smiling. You didn't have to. He glanced at the ceiling, where water left small dark bruises in the wood. They say light travels faster than sound, but leaks travel faster than both. I could hang a sign now serving indoor rain. He grinned. You'd probably make it poetic. We climbed the narrow ladder to the roof. Rain misted across the tiles, thin and silver like memory. The city lights blurred below, smudged by reflection. I held the flashlight. He held the hammer. Together, we moved in a rhythm older than speech. At some point, lightning lit the sky bright enough to turn the rooftop into day. River looked up, rain running down his face. Remember when you said the cafe is a harbor? He asked. Yes, you were wrong. He turned toward me, eyes calm, voice low. It's an anchor. You keep people from drifting too far. I wanted to answer, but the thunder came first, rolling, shaking, then fading into the quiet that always follows something honest. We finished patching the leak, laid the last piece of tarp, and ducked back inside, drenched and shivering. I made tea while he stripped off his soaked jacket, hair clinging to his forehead. You should stay until the rain stops, I said. He laughed softly. You sure that's meteorology or invitation? Both, I said. Mostly the second. He sat by the heater, steam rising from his sleeves. The projector was still on, casting faint constellations over the damp walls. The rope, the promise, the bridge all shimmering through the moisture, like light learning to breathe. Nova slept under the counter. The falcon dozed near the window, feathers puffed like smoke. The cafe smelled of wet earth and citrus soap. River looked around, quiet admiration in his gaze. You built this place out of every broken thing you found, didn't you? Not broken, I said. Just waiting for purpose. He nodded slowly. Like me. For a while, we didn't speak. The kind of silence between us had changed, no longer waited to be broken. It simply was. When the thunder softened, I brought him a mug of chamomile. He wrapped both hands around it, breathing in. This tastes like rest. That's the secret ingredient, I said. He looked at me over the rim. You always add the right kind of quiet. And then the power went out. The projector flickered once, then darkness. Only the city's faint orange glow remained, seeping in through the rain. Well, I said. Maybe the stars are tired tonight. Then we'll lend them ours, he said. He reached for the box of candles, lit one, then another, until the cafe shimmered in soft amber. The flame caught the reflections of our movements, the cups, the window, the rain beyond glass. Everything glowed like a memory too gentle to fade. He stood, came closer. You're shaking. I'm fine. You're not. He pulled the blanket from the chair and wrapped it around my shoulders. The gesture simple, almost careless, but it settled into the air like warmth had been waiting for permission. We stood like that for a long time, listening to the rain write its language against the roof. Each drop sounded like a small confession. River, I whispered. Do you ever wish for something ordinary? He smiled. Every day. And then I meet you, and ordinary learns new definitions. I laughed quietly. You're terrible at small talk. I'm great at big feelings, he said. The candlelight trembled between us. I could feel his breath, smell the rain still caught in his hair. He didn't move closer, but everything in the room did, the light, the wind, the heartbeat against the quiet. We stayed like that until the power returned. The projector blinked awake, scattering faint stars over us. The constellations crossed his shoulders, shimmered along my hair, joined at our hands without needing touch. Outside, the storm finally tired. Inside, the night decided not to leave. The city looked washed and new. From the rooftop, Lisbon stretched in pale gold, every wet tile catching light like a kept promise. River was already awake. He stood by the open window, sleeves rolled, rewiring a lamp whose cord had frayed. His bandaged arm moved carefully but sure, like he'd learned to bargain with pain instead of fight it. You fix things even when they still work, I said. He glanced back, smiling. That's how I make sure they keep working. Prevention is my love language. Then the cafe must feel very loved. He laughed softly. It does. Especially its owner. The words hung there, light as dust motes in sunlight. I pretended to check the coffee pot, though my hands suddenly remembered how to tremble. Outside, Nova barked once at the sky, the clear kind of bark that means it's safe now. The falcon answered with a quiet trill, wings stretching for the first time since the storm. Everything alive seemed to test its edges. River plugged the lamp back in. The bulb flared, steady and warm. See? Some things come back brighter. Like people? I asked. Like us, he said. The sentence landed between us with the gentleness of a leaf on water. No rush, no question, just the truth choosing its own volume. I poured 2 cups of coffee and slid one toward him. You're staying today, he nodded. The rescue team's grounded for maintenance. I thought I'd use my day off to learn what it feels like not to leave. And he looked out at the city, then at me. Strange, comfortable, terrifying, I smiled. Welcome to ordinary. He set the cup down and crossed the room. The morning light wrapped around him, turning his hair the color of honey and storms long gone. When he reached me, he didn't speak. He just stood close enough for the quiet to breathe with us. Iris, he said finally, low and sure, you're the only thing I've ever wanted to keep that isn't breaking. I didn't answer with words. I stepped forward and let his arms find me. The embrace was slow, careful to people testing gravity in a new way. His heartbeat pressed against my cheek, steady, real. For a long time, neither of us moved. Outside, the river shimmered. Inside, the coffee steamed between us like a small sunrise. When we finally pulled apart, his smile carried the calm of something decided. What now? He asked. Now, I said, we start fixing the parts that aren't broken, just to keep them whole. He nodded. Together, always. The lamp flickered once, then settled into a steady glow. Somewhere below, a tram rang its bell. The day had begun, and for the first time, it felt like hours. By mid-morning the clouds had drifted inland, leaving Lisbon bright and wide. I rolled the cafe cart to the edge of the street, while River loaded the thermos flasks and the small projector into the van. We were going to the Saturday Riverside Market, our first day taking the Rooftop Café out into daylight. I still think the stars prefer night, I said. They'll adapt, River answered. They just need caffeine and good company. The market sat under rows of white tents, the air filled with roasted almonds, citrus peel, and the sharp scent of the river. Children ran between stalls, and buskers tuned their guitars with sleepy smiles. We sat up under a faded canvas that smelled faintly of salt and thyme. On our table, a small espresso machine, a box of blank coasters, and the portable projector connected to a power bank. A hand-painted sign read, "Trade one wish for one constellation." It didn't take long. An old woman came first, holding a wilted bouquet. My husband used to build ships, she said. I want him to find calm waters. I drew her the harbor, 3 looping stars, and River added a line of chalk waves beneath it. She left smiling, eyes glossy with something older than sadness. Next came a teenage boy who said he wanted luck in exams, and courage in math. River gave him coffee strong enough to taste like possibility. I drew a spiral of dots shaped like a pencil turning into a rocket. By noon, our corner had turned into a small universe. Kids were lying on the pavement, tracing our chalk constellations with their fingers. Someone had left a note in the tip jar. Thank you for making the sky portable. I looked at River. He was laughing with a group of street performers, his bandaged arms still stiff but no longer cautious. He looked lighter, as if each conversation rewired something inside him. You're good at this, I said when he returned. At what? At existing in daylight? He grinned. I had a good teacher. The afternoon softened. Sunlight caught the projector beam, scattering tiny shapes across the tent roof. The stars we'd borrowed from night shimmered faintly over our heads. River leaned closer. See? They don't mind the sun after all. Maybe they just needed a reason. Or maybe, he said, they needed us. For a moment the market fell quiet, only the river speaking. The soft hum of cups and chalk, the warmth of everything that had survived rain. I realized that this, too, was the cafe, not a place, but a way of showing up. When we packed up at sunset, the projector cast one last constellation on the canvas. A single bright loop, joining 2 stars. River pointed. What's that one called? I smiled. Us, he nodded. Figures, it's the one that never sets. We drove back along the river road with the windows down, the air thick with salt and laughter. Behind us, the sky was still faintly blue, carrying our day like a quiet promise. Night returned like an old friend.com/familiar, and a little shy about how long it had been away. The cafe glowed from the rooftop, strings of bulbs looping between railings, swaying with the breeze. Below, the river shimmered like melted silver. It was the cafe's first anniversary. People came carrying pieces of their stories. The old woman with her harbor charm, the boy with the exam spiral, the buskers from the market, and even a few strangers who'd once traded a wish for a constellation. The air smelled of cinnamon, coffee, and the faintest trace of sea salt. River moved easily now, arm healed, posture steady. He stood at the center of the terrace, adjusting the projector's lens while I arranged candles along the tables. Nova darted between guests with a tray of napkins tied to her back. The falcon perched on a post, proud and motionless, guardian of the night. When the last guest arrived, I dimmed the lights. The projector clicked, and the wall bloomed with stars, brighter, steadier than before. River looked toward me. Ready? Always. He pressed play. The constellations unfolded in sequence. The rope, the promise, the bridge, return, and finally a new one, our latest creation, us. Each one pulsed to the rhythm of the cafe's heartbeat, warm gold blending into quiet blues. Gasps rose from the crowd, followed by laughter, then silence, the good kind, the kind that holds meaning instead of absence. I took the microphone we'd borrowed and spoke, voice trembling but steady enough to carry. A year ago, this place was just an empty roof and a few dreams that didn't know where to land. Now it's full of light, not because of the stars we draw, but because of the people who keep showing up. So tonight, make a wish, even a small one. The sky listens. River joined me, his hand finding mine as naturally as breath. Every rescue, he said softly into the mic, needs a return point. This cafe became mine. Applause scattered like soft rain. Someone wiped their eyes. Someone else raised a cup. We stood side by side, looking out at the horizon where the river met the night. Lisbon stretched below gold, gentle, infinite. The music started, an acoustic guitar, slow and salt-sweet. The projector shifted once more, casting the U.S. constellation above the guests. The dots of light arched across the wall, then spilled upward into the open air. People gasped as the sky seemed to answer, faint real stars glimmering in exactly the same shape. River squeezed my hand. Looks like the universe approved the design. I smiled. Then it's official. Our story made it into the sky. He leaned closer, voice quiet enough for only me to hear. Iris, thank you for teaching me how to stay. And you, I said, for reminding me that even light needs anchors. The crowd faded into background laughter and music. Above us, stars and city lights blurred into one luminous sea. When the last song ended, I turned off the projector. But the wall didn't darken, the reflection of the sky outside kept it glowing. See, River whispered. You built something that shines without needing power. I leaned my head against his shoulder. No, we did. The falcon spread its wings, catching the wind. Nova blinked twice, her blue light steady. The cafe hummed, alive. And for the first time, I realized that the story had never been about fixing what was broken. It was about learning how to keep the light when it finally stayed.